Can y'all hear me?
Good.
All right. Y'all, my name is John Rosenthal. I'm actually a state representative in the Houston area, Northwest Houston, District 135. And I often feel out of place in these settings. I'm a career mechanical engineer, and I seek practical solutions whenever we're in this business. So to me, this is kind of anything but that. It's the exact opposite. Now, for someone like me, this is an incredible responsibility that I feel, and I'm honored, but also feel the gravity to serve as your vice chair on this House Select Committee on Congressional Redistricting. Listen, I've done some big things as an oil field engineer, but nothing in my life compares to this right here today. And thank you for being here. There's a real fight in front of us, and you can count on me and my colleagues to be in it. At the first hearing, I passed out the letter from the Department of Justice that was sent to Governor Abbott, where he specifically mentions, the Department of Justice specifically mentioned 4 congressional districts. That is 9, 18, 29, and 33. Before I even say anything else, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Congressional 18 is where we're sitting. It's a historic, iconic district. And when I say historic, I mean historic. This district gave us Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, and the late great Sylvester Turner. So when we look at what's going on right now, and the 3 of these 4 districts called out just happen to be represented by African American representatives. Tell me that that is not a racist attack on our black reps. And I'll note it's black and brown. We got Sylvia Garcia here, who we're going to hear from in a little bit. Mid-decade redistricting is unusual. It's unnecessary. We actually are required every 10 years to redraw our district boundaries after the census, and we did that. There was a 2020 census, and we redrew the boundaries in 2021. So this process is not about making things fair, which is what it's supposed to be. It's mostly about removing districts represented by people of color. It's about taking power. It's about taking the voice away from black and brown communities. If they dismantle all 4 of these, that is like almost 2 million voices silenced. That already Congressional 18 will go more than a year without having a voice in Congress. So this effort has nothing to do with representing people better. It's the opposite of that. Texas is growing. Between 2010 and 2020, we added almost exactly 4 million people, 3,999,994, according to the United States Census. I can call that 4 million for practical purposes. Of that growth, 187,252 were white, 550,887 were black, 1.98 million were Hispanic or Latino. So let me just say, if 4.5% of our 10-year growth was white, when we added the 2 new districts that was required because we had so many new people here, how did they manage to draw those both to be majority white districts? That is not the purpose of the exercise, right? We take the census and then we draw the districts to make sure everyone is fairly represented. So I'm just going to say, if these folks end up trying to take away seats, we will be fighting those. That is just stealing voices, plain and simple. So I'm going to point out, for those that haven't noticed, I'm a white guy, but I think it's especially important for people that look like me to speak out, because when When Desmond Tutu said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor, sign me up to oppose the oppressor. So it's on us, those of us, and you know who I'm talking to, the people that benefit from this system. We need your help in this fight, because we cannot let our brothers and sisters, no matter what race or zip code or ethnicity or anything else, we cannot let this system, this process silence their voices. So with that, I'll yield back. But thank you all very much.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Dean Thompson, for what purpose?
I like to respond.
Chair recognizes Dean Thompson for an opening statement.
I'm the last person in the United States that need to defend Ken Paxton and Dan Patrick. But I'm going to defend them today. When we drew the lines and the DOJ sent down here and said they were racial lines, here's what Ken Paxton said. The Texas legislature did not pass race-based electoral districts for any of those 3 political maps. Texas State Senator Joan Huffman, who chairs the Senate Redistricting Committee, testified under oath that she drew Texas districts blind to race and sought to maximize Republican political advantage balanced against traditional redistricting criteria. The Texas legislature has led the nation in rejecting race-based decision-making in its redistricting process. Y'all know that I'm the wrong person to defend Dan Patrick, but there's no way in hell that a racist map was going to come out of the Texas Senate. And I resent that the United States Justice Department would send a bogus letters down here to the state of Texas accusing the people in this state of doing such. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Turner, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would the Chair yield for a couple of questions?
Chair yields for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up on the conversation you and I had on the dais at our Thursday hearing in Austin, I asked you at the time if the Chair had any contact or the committee had any contact with the Department of Justice with respect to their July 7th letter. You answered that you had not. Has that changed since that time?
That has not changed since our last conversation.
Okay. Yes, you may be aware, yesterday your Senate counterpart, Senator Phil King, sent a letter to the Department of Justice addressed to Harmeet Dillon, who's the Assistant Attorney General who signed the July 7th letter, extending an invitation to Mr. Dillon to testify before the Senate Redistricting Committee so the senators could hear the Department of Justice's perspective on why that letter was sent, why it was necessary, and what their legal rationale was for it. My question is, would the House committee also send a similar letter formally inviting Mr. Dillon to testify before our committee so we can understand exactly what the Department of Justice's position is with respect to this redistricting process?
The Chair's understanding is we extended an invitation to anyone that wanted to come testify, which would include Ms. Dillon. At the first hearing that we had 2 days ago, I understand the Vice Chair is willing to invite them, and she's more than welcome to come and testify in person. And pursuant to the conversations I've had with the Vice Chair, happy to take her out of order either today or at the hearing in Arlington on Monday.
Okay. So is the Chair not prepared to send a formal letter from, I appreciate.
Chair's happy to consider that. I'll consider that and get with you offline.
Would the Chair recognize me for a motion for us to for the committee to vote to formally invite the Assistant Attorney General to appear before the committee?
Not at this time, but I will get with you, and I'm happy to consider sending her a letter. And even just so it's clear for the public right now, she's welcome to come testify. I don't believe that I or the committee have the power to subpoena her because she's a federal official, but she's more than welcome to come, and I know if the Vice Chair or anyone or me wants to reach out to her, we'd be happy to have her if she wants to come.
Understood, and I would just hope the Department of Justice would respond positively to a formal invitation from you and from our committee to come and testify. That's why I think a formal invitation would be appropriate and hopefully well received, and we get their testimony here before our committee.
Understood. I will follow up with you on that for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be prepared to make that motion at any time you deem is appropriate for me to offer it. Lastly, you had indicated the other day that the House has retained a law firm for purposes of redistricting, Butler Snow, I believe you said?
That's correct.
Okay. You said you wanted to check to see if that law firm was available to the entire committee for purposes of redistricting. You weren't sure about that when we talked about it Thursday?
Yes,
Do you have an answer
the
on
chair's
that?
looked into that. The Butler Snow has been retained to represent the speaker and his staff, the chair and his staff, and because of the litigation that was ongoing at the time, Chairman Hunter and his staff as well.
Okay, so just so I'm crystal clear on that, Butler Snow has been retained by the House of Representatives to represent the speaker and his staff, yourself and your staff.
The committee staff, I guess, would be indirectly under that, too.
committee
Yes,
staff.
and then Chairman
Your
Hunter
personal
and his
staff and the committee staff.
That's correct.
And Chairman Hunter and his staff.
That is correct, Representative Turner.
And that's the scope of their representation.
That is my understanding of the scope, yes, sir.
Okay. Would the committee be able to provide resources for members of the committee, talking specifically Democratic members in the political minority, to also retain our own counsel for purposes of redistricting?
I'm happy to look at that. I'm not sure if that's been done before, but I'm happy to look at that. I do know that we all have legislative counsel that's available to every member, but I'm happy to look at that and get with you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Turner. Members, any other questions? Representative Wu, for what purpose?
Questions?
Chair yields for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the last hearing, I had asked you if you had any information from the governor's office on exactly the governor's intent or rationale for putting this on the call, thus giving the committee some direction of what we're supposed to be doing, what we're supposed to be looking at, more than just naming an issue. Have you contacted the governor's office since that last hearing?
I have not.
Okay. Has anyone in your office contacted them?
Not to my knowledge.
Has anyone asked them, could you clarify what exactly your intent is and reasoning is for putting this on the call?
Not beyond my personal knowledge. I don't know.
Okay. Have you considered asking the governor to explain what exactly he means when he's putting this issue on the call?
Not at this time. I'll take that under advisement. I mean, I think that the proclamation that we have received and that we reviewed at the last hearing was, in my mind, pretty clear in the sense that he's put this item on the call and it is prudent for this committee to take it up.
Could you explain in your mind what is the rationale that you understand of what the governor is?
I'll give a little leeway up at the front. I just want to make sure that we understand that the audience is not to respond. And it's going to be particularly important when we get into witness testimony. I just want to make sure that we know that now. That's okay. If the gentleman please repeat his question.
You explained that you think that it's not necessary for you to ask the governor to clarify his intent and his rationale for placing this on the call, for placing a mid-cycle redistricting on the call. You said you understand that in your mind. It is clear to you what it is. It is unclear to me and many other members on here. Could you explain, in your own words, in your mind, what you believe the governor's intent is in putting this on the call?
I could not speculate what the governor's intent is. The chair's position is that the governor has put an item on the proclamation, and as is customary, when the governor puts items on the proclamation, the legislature responds with at least hearings. And so on that basis, the chair has set up these public hearings, including the one 2 days ago in Austin, the one today here in Houston, and the one on Monday in Arlington.
Okay. So now I'm even more confused, because just not more than 2 minutes ago, you said it was clear in your mind what the governor intended, what he wants, and his logic, even though you haven't talked to him. But now you're saying that we don't know, and that's why we're having these hearings.
My statement was that the proclamation itself was clear as to the jurisdiction conferred upon the House of Representatives under the Constitution to take action or not take action under the Constitution. And on that basis, because the governor has put it on the call, as is customary, the chair was going to take it up. I believe that's the position that has been taken in the Senate as well. And it's customary that anytime we have a special session proclamation, we take up that legislation along with all the other items.
Do you know whether or not the governor's true intent is to remove coalition districts from Texas maps?
I do not, and I struggle to know anyone's true intent on a mind reader. I haven't been able to read my wife's mind many times, and I can't read the governor's necessarily.
Sure.
So I can't speculate on what anyone's intent is.
Would you be surprised if the governor specifically said, point blank, quote, "We have the ability now to draw maps that don't have coalition districts," end quote? Are you aware the governor said that? Publicly.
I'm aware of the governor making remarks. I'm not aware of the specific details, but I trust that you've done a quote. So on that basis, I don't have a reason to dispute the quote. But it's not the chair's intention to be taking action based off of the the express words of the governor in a private setting. The governor has given a proclamation, and the chair has indicated the chair is going to act on that proclamation.
Well, that's again brings us back to my original point. I'm not clear what the intent is and what the purpose of this is. And here, I've read the proclamation. The proclamation, to me, as an attorney, provides no basis of why we are redistricting under the law, under state and federal law, other than you can. Or you have the legal ability to do it right now. But it has not provided to me, as a sitting member of the legislature, of why and for what purpose. So all the other legislation, the governor has provided information on what his feelings are, what his intent is, and what kind of law he would like to see passed. Now, he has not provided that in writing to any of us as members of this committee. Has he provided that in writing or verbally to you?
He is not.
Okay. So I would assume that you are not a mind reader, as you just said, that you are as in the dark as we are about this.
I don't know if I'd use those terminology. The chair's position is that the proclamation was clear as to the jurisdiction conferred upon the legislature under the Constitution to take action on items put on the call, and it has been the intention and the practice of the House for the committees to take up hearings and action
Sure.
on the items put on the call.
Now, you're an attorney as well. It's reasonable to say that there is a distinction between jurisdiction and a purpose. Would that be fair?
I think that jurisdiction is obviously a legal terminology. Purpose would be in the eye of the beholder, of course.
Sure. And just like the legislature has a jurisdiction to either increase school funding or decrease school fundings, you would agree that those are very different things.
I would presume that those are certainly different things.
Okay. Now, that would apply to this here. You have stated that we have the clear jurisdiction to be sitting here based on the governor's call, but we do not have any purpose in being here. Could you explain?
The chair.
Could you explain in your own words, in your mind, what the purpose is of this committee? What are we looking to do?
The purpose of the hearings, as was announced 2 days ago, is a proclamation has been issued where the governor's put this item on the call. In accordance with the historical practice, we're going to take it up in 2 phases. The first phase is, of course, for the public to provide testimony on whether to revise the congressional plan or not, and if so, what are things that you would like to see or not see. And we've received testimony at the last hearing on that basis. I anticipate in a moment we'll be able to get to that here today and in Arlington on Monday. And then depending on that testimony, we may or may not take action thereafter. And so it's a 2-phase process. And I think it's always prudent when the governor puts an item on the call that we take it seriously and we look into it, and that's exactly what we're doing.
So what you're saying is you don't have any idea of what you want to do, correct?
I wouldn't say that.
You're waiting for public testimony.
Well, I think that my main purpose here today is to hear from the public. And I'd like to be able to do that. Obviously, we've got to get through these questions first to be able to hear from the people. And I'd like to be able to go into public testimony.
Thank you. In your own mind, have you already an idea or a plan of what you would like to see done on these maps?
In the sense that whether we take action or not, I've heard testimony that would lead me to believe that perhaps some revisions are necessary. I believe there was testimony 2 days ago that some people didn't like the current maps. But whether or not we do that is still to be determined, and I'd like to get to the public testimony so we can hear that today and in 2 days.
All right, let's get to it.
All right. Members, any other Speaker Moody for a purpose?
Just a couple questions of the chair.
Chair, yields to questions.
Since we took up testimony on Thursday and we had a conversation at that point about whether you had been provided any proposed maps or had begun to prepare any at that time, you said no, and I just want to, now that a couple days have passed, some testimonies come online, have you or your office begun to engage in drafting a proposed map for this committee to consider?
No.
Has any, I keep hearing that maps are coming down from Washington, D.C. Have any maps like that been provided to you or your staff?
No.
So you don't have anything in front of you after one hearing that would indicate what a potential redraw of congressional districts in Texas would look like?
No. The only one that I have seen was that one that was uploaded to the public portal. And I believe there might have been more uploaded. I haven't looked at them. So that's it.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, any other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Chair's going to recognize on the dais with us today Representatives Wally, Lalani, Morales-Shaw, Jones, Perez, and Simmons. Did I miss anyone? Okay. Mr. Wally, for what purpose?
Thank you. Just to ask a few questions of the chairman.
Chair yields for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing the non-redistricting committee members to at least sit on the committee and allowing us to participate so that voices are heard from every part of Harris County. Being a member from Harris County for the last 9 terms, it's an honor to represent not just my district, House District 140 in North Harris County and Aldine area, but I just don't represent North Harris County. I get to vote on, many of us get to vote, all of us, 150 members get to vote on legislation that impacts statewide issues, and so appreciate the opportunity. But as it pertains to any maps, potential maps that that would be presented by this committee or identified by this committee, is a chair aware, or how would this committee ensure that communities of interest like those in CD 29, 18, 9, 7 are not split or diluted during the redistricting process?
It's the chair's intention, as he's previously stated, as far as it depends on the chair, to comply with the Voting Rights Act and at all times.
And what specifically will that criteria be? How will that criteria be used in redrawing these maps?
The chair doesn't have a particular plan in mind on specific districts. As I mentioned, I haven't even seen a map. I haven't prepared a map, and so it would be premature for me to comment on that other than to say I'm going to comply with the Voting Rights Act in everything I do.
Okay. And so to that point, how will the chair and the committee do that?
It's the chair's understanding that if a bill is filed after these public hearings, we'll take it up, consider it. At that time, I have another public hearing, of course, on any proposal, and then we will evaluate it and ensure at all times that it complies with the Voting Rights Act.
And in compliance with the Voting Rights Act, how will the committee ensure that there are no gerrymandering or racial gerrymandering of these districts?
The chair understands, and part of the purpose of council is to ensure that we get appropriate advice. I'm not an expert on redistricting law, but we receive that advice, and whoever moves forward with anything would of course, we have counsel in that sense, and I would my expectation is that any map that is drawn will be reviewed for compliance with the Voting Rights Act, and that it will comply with the Voting Rights Act. And of course, throughout the process, we'll have a deliberative process for the members of this committee on any proposal, if one comes forward, as well as on the floor of the House.
Okay. And you mentioned that you have hired outside counsel for the committee on redistricting. Is that correct?
As I mentioned to Representative Turner, outside counsel has been retained for the Speaker and his staff, the Chair and his staff, and because of the litigation that was ongoing for Chairman Hunter and his staff.
Okay.
Because
And-
he's the former, just so the record's clear, he's the former chair of redistricting.
Correct. And as I understand it, there has been, since there is no map, are you aware that we recently had a trial on the 2021 map? Is that, are you
I'm
aware of that?
generally aware that chair was not involved in the lawsuit.
Okay. And that map was passed by the Texas legislature, and who controls the Texas legislature?
The people of Texas.
No, what? Just to be clear, and I'm not trying to be cute here, but who is in control? Which political party is in control of the Texas legislature as we speak?
The Republican Party currently holds and held in 21 a majority of the seats in the House and Senate.
And they are the ones that are approved this particular map. Is that correct?
I don't recall actually offhand, Representative Wally, I don't want to lie to you about what the exact vote count was,
Okay.
but I do know that it was approved by the House and Senate in 21,
Okay.
I believe in the third special session. And passed
You're
that.
aware that the Republicans drew this map that now the Republicans saying are now illegal. Is that my understanding?
All right. The chair will remind the audience that clapping or outbursts in response to statements is not allowed under the rules of decorum. And I trust that the audience will help me comply with the rules of decorum going forward. To the gentleman's point, I apologize if I have forgotten the exact question asked. The votes in 21, I understand that Republicans voted for the map, me included, because I believed it complied with the Voting Rights Act. Whether or not individuals believe it does or doesn't, it is not the chair's position that the map drawn in 21 violates the Voting Rights Act.
Okay, but it wasn't until you got the chair, well, the governor, Abbott, received the letter from the Department of Justice that now ironically says that these maps are now, I'm paraphrasing, are discriminatory in a particular way. Is that your understanding?
I don't necessarily read into the proclamation that if the governor has made a statement, he'd have to defer to the governor, right? The chair has read the proclamation. The proclamation says what it says, and as the chair has mentioned, it's the custom and practice in the legislature when the governor puts an item on the call to take it up.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
are you,
Mr. Chairman,
Dean Thompson, for purpose.
may I respond just a little bit to my colleague?
The chair will recognize Dean Thompson for a brief statement.
It just, Representative Wally, it just seems to me that the DOJ is accusing Texas of being racist. And I know, you know, I don't need to defend Dan Patrick because he can defend himself. And I don't need to defend the legislature because they can defend themselves. And I definitely don't need to defend Ken Paxton because he can defend himself. But he specifically stated that those maps was drawn and they are not racially, race was not involved in it. And I don't know why the United States Justice Department is accusing us of drawing racist maps. I just don't get it.
Chair recognizes Representative Wally for a brief statement, and then if he wants to ask the questions to the chair, he will. Chair will wait for that.
I think that's what the perplexing Dean Thompson is really why we're here. We don't know why we're here, honestly. I'm kind of speechless on that fact. But to Chair Basut, are you aware that, and if the committee, if you answered this question at a previous committee, but I just want to get this, at least for our Harris County folk to understand, are you aware that the 2021 map increased majority white districts?
I have not looked at that,
Okay.
the breakdown of every single one and tabulate every single one. It's been 4 years, Representative Wally. I don't want to give you a wrong answer, so I'm just going to say I'm not advised at this time.
Are you or any of the committee members, but particularly you chair this committee, are you aware that the most recent census data shows that the most of Texas's population growth in the past decade has come from communities of color? Is that Is that a fair statement?
I'm not 100% sure, Representative Wally. I don't have information in front of me to dispute that because I haven't looked at this.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, the chair will admonish the audience to follow the rules of decorum. The chair wants to ensure that everyone remains and has an opportunity to speak. So let's make sure that we follow the rules of decorum. To the gentleman's point, the reason I'm not able to, I have not looked at that census data in detail, and I don't want to. Again, my rule is I'm going to give you the straight answer I can, and I'm going to answer your question. And so on that basis, I don't have that census data in front of me. I haven't looked at it.
Okay. Well, just for,
I have no reason to doubt your statement.
okay, so
if that helps.
for the chairman's information, census data, also the American Community Survey, indicates that 80-90% of the growth in the state of Texas has been by the last decade by Black, Brown, Asian folks. Just want to set that record straight. And that you're sitting in the most diverse county in the country. Are you aware of that?
I believe, hyper-technically, Gentleman Representative Lalani might take issue with that because I believe that Fort Bend County is the most.
And where's
diverse.
Fort Bend?
Fort Bend County is very close by.
It abuts Harris County. Is that correct?
In the Houston metro area. You're
It's in the
absolutely
Houston
right,
metro
Representative
area. So this region is one of the most diverse communities in the country. Is that correct?
I would assume so, and I think we're better for it.
And that would be a strength. That diversity would be a strength because we're all Americans. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think that unity and diversity is the strongest principle that there is.
Okay. And is the chair aware that this university campus is one of the most diverse university campuses, the University of Houston, in the country?
That's the chair's understanding. As Representative Wally knows, the chair is a graduate of this institution.
You are the University of Houston Law Center, as I.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate the time you've given us to answer, particularly myself as a member of this body, and look forward to hearing from our members of Congress and the panelists. And I want all of you guys to know that you're being heard, and we're going to do everything we can to fight for you, your interests. You deserve it. We're all Americans. Godspeed.
Ms. Jones, for what purpose?
I have questions of the chair.
Chair, yes for questions.
Chair, as you know, I represent this district, House District 147, where we are.
That's the chair's understanding, yes.
Yes, and I have 2 degrees from this institution, an undergraduate degree and a law degree. The chair understands that?
Chair understands that. Chair understands that you might have been a track star here at some point in time.
That too. And the chair would agree that when people are elected by their constituents, we know what's going on in our communities because we're here on the ground. Would the chair agree with that?
I believe the Texas House, of all, whether it's compared to the Senate or U.S. Congress, is the closest to the people. And so on that basis, I'd of course agree with it.
Exactly. So my colleague brought up the 2021 maps. Would you agree that in 2021, the Black and brown communities and Asian communities were cracked and packed and baked into districts that diluted their voting power to create more Anglo-dominated districts, even though the majority of the growth came from people of color?
Again, the chair has not looked at the census data for the districts that exist now. It's been 4 years since they were drawn, and back in 21. So I can't answer that question in the affirmative.
And would the chair agree that we're repeating the same unjust process, only worse because it's mid-decade, mid-census? Would the chair agree with that?
Chair would not agree. Chair's position is that we're going to always follow the Voting Rights Act, and that's the chair's position. Always will be the chair's position.
The chair's a lawyer, right?
The chair has engaged in what is known as the practice, quote, of law.
And the chair is familiar with due process, right?
Chair is absolutely familiar with due process.
And the chair understands that with due process, we're entitled to meaningful notice and hearing of rights that are being taken away from us, correct?
Due process, The due process that is owed depends upon the action being taken, whether it infringes fundamental rights, but in all cases, due process is at the minimum notice and hearing.
Right. So at a minimum notice and hearing, do you not, does the chair agree that the people that are coming to testify in this hearing, at least at this point, are unable to testify as to how they will be negatively or positively affected by any maps because there are no maps filed for anybody to testify to?
The question that the members of the public will be able to address whenever we get to public testimony will be whether or not they believe the current maps are appropriate or if they'd like to see changes.
Okay.
And so I cannot speak for the members of the public and what their opinion will be. I'd love to be able to hear it.
Okay, so to your point, once the chair hears what the public has to say as to whether they think we should change the current maps, if the chair believes that maps should be changed, is the public going to have the opportunity to have public hearings on the maps that are redrawn prior to us voting on them? And second part of the question, will the hearings after a map is filed be held across the state, not in 3 places like we have now? Third, will the maps also, will these public hearings that I believe our constituents are entitled to be able to be via Zoom like they were in Austin? Because I just find it curious that in Austin, where the people didn't look like us, people were allowed to testify via Zoom, and here you have to be here present. And I'm concerned about our disabled people who actually have opinions about whether we should be mid-decade redistricting, don't have the opportunity to come before us because they can't get here or whatever. Will they have the opportunity to come before us and have us ask them questions? So those are the questions I have for now, Mr. Chair.
The answer to your first question is 1,000%. The answer to your second and third
1,000
questions...
Wait. For purposes of the people who weren't taking notes, when you
Yes,
say...
a compound question under Texas Rules of Evidence. I had to answer it. It would have been objected form if we were in a deposition. But I would say this. The question that you asked, and correct me if I'm wrong, Representative, was, will the public have an opportunity to weigh in through a public hearing and testimony on any proposal, if any, that this committee hears? And the answer to that question is 1,000%. The second questions that you asked about the method and the timing and the number of places, the chair will take those under advisement when scheduling the public hearings, which have not been scheduled at this time.
Right. So would you agree with me, Mr. Chair, that right now there's no new proposed map for anyone here testifying today to speak to?
There is no proposed map pending before the committee at this time for which public testimony will be offered, but we will have a hearing if such a map is filed.
When, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished.
Representative, I yield for question.
Right, so when will the public receive the map of any proposed changes?
The chair is not sure at this time, but the chair, as he previously announced at the first hearing, while the rules allow for 24 hours notice after a bill is referred to set it for hearing, the chair is going to give more notice than that.
How much notice is the chair going to give?
The chair's not sure at this time. It depends on the calendar.
And so, again,
But it will be more than 24 hours. You have the chair's word on that.
Right. Will the chair, in addition to giving more than 48 hours, give more than one hearing?
The chair's not sure at this time. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't made a final determination on that.
And where will that hearing be?
The chair's not sure at this time, but I will take your suggestions under advisement as have been made by others as well.
And I'll just say this, that some people have jobs to go to. Some people have to make arrangements to get places if it's not where they are. So I would respectfully request for the people that live in Texas that we be given sufficient notice, or they be given sufficient notice, so that they can make arrangements to come to any hearings that we hope are near them, so that they can give their testimony on the actual maps that will absolutely affect their rights and their representation in Congress.
Thank you, Representative. Representative
And
Simmons.
I'm sorry, I have just one more question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Jones, recognized for another question.
So why are we not waiting to hold these hearings until after the current litigation about the 2021 maps are resolved?
The chair has already answered the question that the governor has placed an item on the call, and the committee will respond to it.
And along those same lines, in 2021, one of the proposed maps was going to consolidate CD9 and CD18, which would have wiped out one black district. Does the chair have any intention to do the same thing or attempt to do the same thing in this redistricting?
The chair
fiasco?
doesn't have a map in front of him, hasn't seen a map in that regards, and so I don't have any. I can't tell you one way or the other, but I can tell you this: we will always follow the Voting Rights Act, and I would like to hear the public testimony to see what they'd like to do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative.
Chairman, I have a procedural question, please.
Point of parliamentary inquiry is stated by Representative Shaw. Please state your inquiry.
Thank you, Chairman. We're sitting here in front of hundreds of my fellow Houstonians, happy to be here, many of which are the target of this mid-decade redistricting. And I just want to know, Chairman, is it your intent that as the individuals testify and if they leave the room, that the other members who have, other public citizens who have signed up to testify and are standing right outside of these chambers are going to be allowed to come in to give their testimony for which they've signed up for and are waiting outside the doors to give?
It is the chair's intention, as he previously indicated, that when individuals testify, if you'll please leave the room so that individuals outside may be able to come in and take your seats, so we can extend that courtesy to our fellow citizens outside. Thank you, Representative Shaw.
Thank you for that clarification, Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Simmons, for what purpose?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a quick question. I know it's very important for us to get to the public
Chair yields for questions.
testimony. Thank you so much. Just for clarification, so typically when the legislature is charged with withdrawing maps, it is due to a census that has been taken and new information has been made available. In this case, this seems atypical, but has there been new census data that has been given or shared? Is there a new every 5-year census that has come out? I'm just trying to get clarification as to why or what new data will be used for these maps. Thank you.
While the census does provide estimates, I believe on an annual basis, we have not, of course, received any new census that is done every 10 years. And any map that is drawn, as my understanding, will be based off of the 2020 census. Thank you, Ms. Simmons.
Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Turner, for what purpose?
It's been brought to my attention, Mr. Chairman, that apparently we've run out of witness affirmation forms outside the hearing room. Is the chair aware of that? Is there a plan to make sure we get more witness affirmation forms so people can sign up to testify?
Chair's been advised that is the case, and we're printing more. I thank you for bringing that to the chair's attention.
Okay. There have been more already printed?
They're printing them right now. On that basis, the chair will extend registration by 30 minutes to 1 o'clock p.m. today.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Turner, for bringing that to my attention.
And Mr. Chairman, just a quick follow-up on
Mr. Turner, for what purpose?
Your dialogue with Representative Wally. You made mention of the fact that you believe the redistricting plans you voted for in 2021 comply with the Voting Rights Act. Do you believe that those plans comply with all applicable laws?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Any other questions? Ms. Wu, for what purpose?
Just a brief statement.
Chair recognizes Mr. Wu for a brief statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was just going back over in my mind some of your comments from earlier. And you made a statement that members of the public had said that they were unhappy with the current maps. And I think you're intentionally conflating that, what is happening today, with what is happening in the redistricting trial, or what has happened at redistricting trial, that there, by a lot of people on this dais and a lot of people in this room, accuse the majority leadership of Republicans in the 2021 redistricting of racial gerrymandering. In fact, that is why that map, those maps, the 2021 maps, went to trial in El Paso for 3 weeks. And I think that people in the last hearing, 100% of the people, including the people who testified afterwards, after the 5-hour mark, and you shut the committee down, those people also 100% testified against the process of redistricting and also disliked the past maps for the same reasons. That the past maps, the 2021 maps, included racial gerrymandering, because we created a system where the 96% of the growth in the state was in minority communities, but 100% of the growth of elected positions occurred in non-minority communities. That 40% of the state basically governs the other 60%. And I think it is disingenuous and maybe a little bit of a misstatement to say that people are unhappy with the current maps in the way that I think you're saying. That I think that people are unhappy with the current maps because they do include racial gerrymandering, as we alleged in the trial. But people would rather accept the current racial gerrymandering over the intensive racial gerrymandering that the governor's proclamation calls for.
The audience will maintain decorum. If we get to the point where we're distracting from our time here today, I'd hate to have to take any action to maintain decorum. I don't want to. I want to hear from everybody. But did the gentleman complete his statement?
No.
Chair recognizes Mr. Wu to continue his statement.
And I think it would be important for witnesses, when they testify today, that they can say that I disapprove of racial gerrymandering that I believe occurred in the past maps, and I especially disapprove of the future racial gerrymandering that's going to occur to make this five-seat Trump map occur. Thank you.
So, any other statements or questions from members of the committee? Chair is none. We will now proceed to public testimony. I'll allow you to clap for that one. All right. Chair's going to call our first panel and then give information for the second panel. Again, if your name is called for the first panel, please come down to the front. If your name is called for the second, to be ready, please be ready. Chair calls Sylvia Garcia, Jasmine Crockett, Lizzie Fletcher, and Al Green. Mr. Green has been called as well. Now, if the gentleman, I believe the gentleman may be sitting at the table right now. Actually, wait. That's Sean.